Someone wanted it with where was that? Was it and then the rest Tadukna Kalorkiya.
ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕਾ ਖਾਲਸਾ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕੀ ਫਤਿਹ. So before we start the talk today on Tegh Bahadur Shaheedi, let's all first do 5 Mool Mantra Debat. After the Mool Mantra Debat, it will be very small class, and then we'll start the talk. And after the talk, many of you have prepared things as well to present to the Sangha today. So we have a mixture of poetry, storytelling, Shabad Kirtan, and various other things that you guys have prepared. So let's all join together, do 5 Mool Mantra Debat, and then we'll start the talk. Vaheguru, 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 Ek Onkar, Satnam, Karta, Purkh, Nirbhav, Nirvair, Akal Murtat, Ajuni Saibam, Gur Prasad, Jap, Aad Sach, Jugad Sach, Hai Bhi Sach, Nanak Hosi Bhi Sach, Ek Onkar, Satnam, Karta, Purkh, Nirbhav, Nirvair, Akal Murtat, Ajuni Saibam, Gur Prasad, Jap, Aad Sach, Jugad Sach, Hai Bhi Sach, Nanak Hosi Bhi Sach, Ek Onkar, Satnam, Karta, Purkh, Nirbhav, Nirvair, Akal Murtat, Ajuni Saibam, Gur Prasad, Jap, Aad Sach, Jugad Sach, Hai Bhi Sach, Nanak Hosi Bhi Sach, Ek Onkar, Satnam, Karta, Purkh, Nirbhav, Nirvair, Akal Murtat, Ajuni Saibam, Gur Prasad, Jap, Aad Sach, Jugad Sach, Hai Bhi Sach, Nanak Hosi Bhi Sach, Ek Onkar, Satnam, Karta, Purkh, Nirbhav, Nirvair, Akal Murtat, Ajuni Saibam, Gur Prasad, Jap, Aad Sach, Jugad Sach, Hai Bhi Sach, Nanak Hosi Bhi Sach. Vaheguru, 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 Tin Bidyani ki Gul Bikhe Pragde Nanak Rai, Sab Se Gul Gosuk De Jete Kahi Sae Gohira, Tikar Ford Ris Sire Prabh Gur Kiyo Pyar, Tegh Bahadur Sikriya Kirina Kinuhane Dohira, Tegh Bahadur Ke Chalat Payo Jagat Ko Soke, Hai Sab Jag Payo, Jai 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 Surlok. Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh. So firstly, thank you to everyone for coming today. Dhan Shri Guru Granth Sahib Ji Maharaj, the King of Kings, the Supreme and Supreme Jyot of Akal Purkh Vaheguru, has blessed us all in these very difficult times in the current COVID to come together in Maharaj's Hazuri. As you know, today is an exceptionally important, special day for us, where today is the day our 9th Guru, Dhan Sri Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji Maharaj gave their cease, gave their life to protect another faith, but also protect Dharam. Dharam means righteousness, justice, and religion. Nowhere in history will you ever see an act of such bravery where someone from another religion gave their life for another religion's maryada to carry on, for their religion to carry on living today. And you'll see in today's talk around the Gatha of Sri Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji Maharaj, why they gave their head in the way they did, what it led to, what was the reason for it, and what did it mean after. But before we start the talk of Sri Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji Maharaj Shaheedi, I want to ask you guys as the Khalsa, does anybody want to share any very simple, easy facts or interesting things about Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji? Who's got something that they want to share very quickly about Sri Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji's life, Jivan, any interesting fact about them? Go on, say.
Did he keep fighting after his head got cut off?
Sorry?
Did he keep fighting after his head got cut off?
Did he?
Keep fighting after his head got cut off?
The Khalsa did. So the Jodha Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji did carry on fighting after. We can say that. Yeah. Who else has a fact about Sri Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji? Anybody? Okay. Don't worry. As we're doing the talk as well, if you remember any interesting facts, or if you have any questions, feel free to ask at any time, yeah? So, as we go into the talk of Sri Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji Maharaj Shaheedi, there's a couple of things I want to show you. So I showed this slide last year when we did the talk on the Jad Sahibs there. So this is the roots of a tree. And for us, the roots of Gurbani is the moon, is Ik Oankar. Yeah? So Ik Oankar we know as the moon, which means the roots. And as we build up the tree, we then have Mool Mantra, which then extends this tree up. And as the tree is fully completed, we have things like Guru Granth Sahib Ji Maharaj, which complete the whole ethos. But behind Guru Granth Sahib Ji, there's also other historical granths that we look at as well. And there's a mixture here. We've got Sri Guru Dasam Granth, which was written by Sri Guru Gobind Singh Ji. There is a lot of history in Sri Guru Dasam Granth Sahib Ji, because Guru Granth Sahib Ji Maharaj isn't a historical granth. It's a granth about how you become one with a God Vaheguru. Dasam Granth is where we get our Biras, our energy of warrior spirit from. And this is what gives us the encouragement, this great Bani written in by Guru Gobind Singh Ji, which we take. So when someone is going to take Amrit from the Panj Pyare, 3 of the 5 Bani that are read are from Sri Guru Dasam Granth. So it's a very important one. We have Sri Sarvlo Granth. Sri Sarvlo Granth was written by Guru Gobind Singh Ji. And when you hear Shabbats like Khalsa Mera Roop Hai Khas, Khalsa Mera Karu Nivas, these Shabbats come from Sarvlo Granth. We've got by Gurudas Diyawara, by Nandlaji's Nanak Prakash, Guru Pratap Suri Prakash, and other historical granths. Today, and it's also very important, whenever someone gives you a talk, you should actually ask them, where are you getting this knowledge from? What research have you done? What granths have you read to do this? Because it's very common nowadays where people will make up things, or they'll change the history, or they won't give you the history as it's written. But today, I'm not sharing with you any facts, any of my opinions. I'm not going to put my own personal spin on the Gatha. I'm going to tell you the Gatha as it's written in our granths. So today, we're going to learn about Ma Kavi Bhai Santokh Singh. Now, Bhai Santokh Singh Ji was the author of one of the granths known as Sri Guru Pratap Surya Prakash Granth. This granth is, without doubt, our most historical and important granth, because this is the granth where you get all your history from about all the Guru Sahibs. So in Grenada, you went to Mecca, when they went to Banja Sahib, when they put their hand in the stone, when they went to Nanak Jira, they put their foot in the floor and Bani came out. All of this history comes from Kavi Santokh Singh's granth. Now, Kavi Santokh Singh was a very important person. But one of the things about Kavi Santokh Singh is they did over 125,000 Japji Sahib parts. And after they did all this part, Dhan Sri Guru Gobind Singh Ji Maharaj came to them and said, when you pick up your kalam, which is called a pen, and you write, the whole history will appear in front of you. And from there, Kavi Santokh Singh then wrote all the history. So next week, as we know, is the Chote Sahibzade Shaheedi. And if you remember the talk I did last year, that talk on the Chote Sahibzade all came from what Kavi Santokh Singh had written. So this is our best, most authentic historical reference that we refer to. Now, in terms of how I did the research to present this today, does anybody recognize Bhai Sahib on the TV? This is Bhai Vishal Singh. They're a very young Gatha Vachik. Gatha Vachik is someone that does Gatha on stage or does preaches on stage. And they did over 50 hours worth of katha just on Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji Shaheedi. Yeah? 50 hours of katha just to explain what I'm going to explain to you today. And then there was some really great sevadars in the UK known as BOSS, or the British Organisation of Sikh Societies. They then translated all that katha into 130 pages. I then went through 130 pages and Guru Sahib's Kirpa condensed it down to 37 pages. So you can imagine this katha is very long, right? We're going to give you a condensed version because if we were to do the whole katha, I haven't learned the whole katha, but it would take so long to do, so we'll try and keep it really simple for you. But what I'm sharing with you today is so that you know where the source of this talk is coming from. Yeah? So this is not my opinion, I haven't made this up, and we're not using other people's thought process, we're using the original history that was given to us. Okay? Just in terms of the Guru's family tree. So, from Guru Ram Das Ji onwards, Guru Ram Das Ji, whose son was Guru Ram Das Ji? Who was our fifth Guru? Guru Arjan Dev Ji, yeah? So Guru Ram Das Ji was Guru Arjan Dev Ji's father, yeah? Guru Arjan Dev Ji's son was who? Who's our sixth Guru? Guru Har Gobind Ji, yeah? So Guru Ram Das Ji was the father of Guru Arjan Dev Ji. Guru Arjan Dev Ji was the father of Sri Guru Har Gobind Ji Maharaj. Who was Guru Har Gobind Ji's son? No, not Guru Har Rai Ji. Who said that? Haji Rasul? Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji. And who was Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji's son? Say it out.
Guru Gobind Singh.
Yeah, and who was Guru Gobind Singh Ji's sons? Very good, yeah? And who is also the sons and daughters of Guru Gobind Singh Ji? The Khalsa. So you are the Khalsa, yeah? So understand that our family lineage, look how far back it goes. So all those Gurus were related from Guru Ram Das Ji onwards, yeah? So you can see the lineage that Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji came from. I'm going to talk a little bit more about the lineage later on as well. Now look, at the time of Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji, what was happening in India? Why was there such problems happening? What was being caused there? The first thing I want to say in this katha is you're going to hear a lot of things about the Muslim people at the time under the Mughal Empire that were doing this. I want to make this very clear. The people of the Mughal Empire who did what they did do not represent Islam. They do not represent the qualities of Islam. Yeah? These are a small, minute amount of people that had a sort or a thought process which was outside the realms of Dharam, which is religion and righteousness. Yeah? But you will also hear of good Muslims in this katha who did seva on Guru Sahib as well. So, at the time of Guru Nanak Dev Ji, there was someone called Emperor Bahadur. And Bahadur was from the Middle East Persian, and they invaded India. And in their memoirs, it's written that Bahadur absolutely destroyed Delhi. The streets were filled with rivers of blood, and they just completely destroyed it. And this is how the Mughal Empire first entered into India. And then as we go through the Mughal Empire, you can see you've got Akbar, Jahangir, Shah Jahan, and the last one was Aurangzeb. And this character, Aurangzeb, was the worst emperor out of them all in terms of how bad he was towards people, because Aurangzeb was the one that was responsible for Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji Shaheedi and the Jar Sahibzada. It all happened under Aurangzeb's rule. And we'll talk a little bit more about Aurangzeb. Now what Aurangzeb wanted to do is, his vision was, we're going to convert the whole of India, the whole of Hindustan, into one religion. He wanted to destroy the Hindu faith. He wanted to destroy the Sikh faith. He wanted to destroy any faiths that did not comply to the Mughal Empire. So what he did is he knew that in a place called Kashmir, which is in the northern part of India, you can see on the map here in orange, on the border of Pakistan, China and India, there lived the Brahmin Pandits. So a Pandit is what we refer to as a Hindu priest. And to be a Hindu priest, you had to be called a Brahmin. A Brahmin is the highest caste of the Hindu faith. And they had a lot of knowledge. We call knowledge Vidya. Yeah? So you might hear a lot of people speak about the word Vidya. Vidya means knowledge. And they had so much knowledge of their scriptures, of their prayers. They knew about their code of conduct. And they were seen as the source of knowledge. But Aurangzeb knew that the best way for me to convert everyone is to attack those people who have that Vidya first. Because if you can make someone with great Vidya change and become one of your people, their people will automatically follow. Yeah? Because remember back in those days as well, education wasn't great. right? People didn't go to school. So you would go to learning people to learn your vidya. Now what happened is in Kashmir, so the way the Mughal Empire worked is they had different areas of the territory. And in each area, Aurangzeb anointed people to run that area on his behalf. Yeah? So you would call them a Subedar. A Subedar was like a governor. Yeah? And he was responsible for Kashmir. So Aurangzeb sent him a letter, yeah? Saying, give money to the people, encourage them to change their faith, talk to them sweetly, give them all these riches, give them bribes, give them money, give them whatever they want. Because if you convert the high priest into Islam, then the rest will come over. But the problem is these priests, they were quite strong in their faith, and they didn't want to give up their faith. But the Subedar, Sher Afghan Khan, said, well, if you don't convert, we're going to kill your kids, we're going to kill your families, we're going to ruin everything that exists, and we're going to ruin your dharma. Now, the Brahmins or the priests, they wear something called a janeo. A janeo is effectively a piece of string which is wrapped up in 5 different strings which they wear around them. And this was a sacred mark of their dharma. Yeah? So a Brahmin would wear a janeo. But what Sher Afghan Khan used to do is he used to take and rip the janeos off the Hindus. Only the male Hindus would wear, or the male Brahmins would wear a janeo. They would rip the janeos off. And by ripping the janeos off, he would forcefully convert the husband of the house, or the man of the house, and therefore his children would as well. Now it's worth noting that Sher Afghan Khan was such a banda in terms of what he did, that he was able to remove over 50 kilograms of this string in one day. A string weighs hardly nothing, right? How many people would he have had to kill or remove to build 50 kilograms of janeel a day? Yeah? This was the force of what they were able to do. And it's even said as well that he wouldn't eat breakfast until he's had 50 grams of janeel a day, kilograms a day. So this was the sorting of them. But the Pandits, the Brahmin priests, they did a benti, they did a humble request. They said, look, give us 6 months. Let us first go and pray to Shivji. So Shivji, as we know, in the Hindu faith, is the destroyer. Yeah? There's 3 main gods, and Shivji is the destroyer. And the Brahmins had faith in Shivji. And they went to a place called Amarnath Mandir. And at the Amarnath Mandir, you can see a picture here, it's like a massive cave. And inside the cave is an ice rock shivling, which the Hindus believe is a representation of Shivji. They went there for 6 months. And for 6 months, night and day, they did bad, they did their seva, they did ardasa, they didn't eat anything, they didn't sleep or anything like that. And the head of the Hindus at the time was someone called Pandit Kirparam. So Kirparam was the Jatidar at the time, you can say, the main head of it, he was telling them. They meditated with a lot of devotion, asking Shivji for help. How can we overcome this? They were shouting at Shivji's name. And what had happened is within 8 days of their benti, Pandit Kirparam had received a letter. And it said that this letter had come from Shivji. And in that letter, it said that no king, no queen, no empire, no money, no wealth is going to save you. If you want to be saved, you have to go to the house of Guru Nanak Dev Ji. Because the house of Guru Nanak Dev Ji is the full power of God. So Guru Nanak Dev Ji and God are exactly the same. There's no difference between Guru Nanak Dev Ji and God. Guru Granth Sahib Ji now is the form of God on this earth, so there's no difference. And in the letter, Shivji said to them, go and see Guru Nanak Dev Ji. In the house of Guru Nanak Dev Ji, you will be saved, because there's no one greater to do that. And at that time, the person that was sat on the throne of Guru Nanak Dev Ji was Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji. So the Pandits went to Anandpur Sahib. So Anandpur Sahib was where Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji were. At this time, they had only seen Guru Gobind Singh Ji for maybe 4 years, because for the first 5 years that Guru Gobind Singh Ji were born, Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji weren't there. They were travelling over India, doing prachar, telling people about the expanse of God. And then Guru Gobind Rai was their name at the time, Gobind Rai, because when they took Amrit, then they became Guru Gobind Singh Ji. And at that place, the Pandits went, and they met Maharaj. And this picture that you see here is a Thara Sahib. Yeah? This Thara Sahib is actually Anandpur Sahib. And this is the actual spot where Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji was sat with Guru Gobind Rai. And this is where the Pandits met them. And it's also said as well that when anybody goes to Takat Kayeskar Sahib, Anandpur Sahib, yeah, they should always visit this Thara Sahib as well, to do Namaskar. And he did benti to Maharaj, said, please help us, we've been told that you're the only one that can save us. Now, remember I mentioned Emperor Bahadur before at the beginning of the talk, yeah? The first one. Now, Emperor Bahadur, when he invaded India, like I said, he decimated the whole of India. And he put Guru Nanak Dev Ji in prison. He put Guru Nanak Dev Ji in prison. And then Bahadur went and met Guru Nanak Dev Ji. And there's a shabad in Sri Guru Granth Sahib Ji, Jaise mein aave khasam ki bani baisa kari gyan mila do. That shabad is Bahadur shabad, as in that was the conversation Guru Nanak Dev Ji had. And Guru Nanak Dev Ji did get on Bahadur because Bahadur had realized Guru Nanak Dev Ji fell at that challenge. And Guru Nanak Dev Ji gave them a boon that your empire will carry on reigning only until you do good. When you start doing bad, your empire will fall. And Guru Nanak Dev Ji actually gave them a prophecy of when that will happen. But what happened here? It was said that Guru Nanak Dev Ji gave Kirpa to Emperor Bahadur. And Guru Nanak Dev Ji said that later on all your generations will carry on doing good. But until you do bad, then it will start going wrong. And we know now in our history that when Emperor Aurangzeb came, the plight of the Mughal Empire started getting worse. They were doing bad things. They weren't doing good knowledge. So, Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji said to them that the only way that a whole religion, a whole country, millions of people can be saved is if one very big Mahapurush, one great Sant, one great Mahapurush comes and gives their life. And what we mean by this, and what the Katha says as well, is that because of the power Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji had, just by giving their head alone was enough to stop millions and millions and millions and millions of heads being given. Yeah? The weight that Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji had, the power, the Shakti that they had, they were able to do that. They were able to liberate people, they were able to save people, they were able to perform anything they wanted to. But they knew that the only way to save them is if someone who has done great bhakti, has done so much bad, who has got a lot of power, can save them. And Guru Gobind Rai at that time was only 9 years old, and they said, Maharaj, then there's no one bigger than you to do this seva. There's no one bigger than you who has this gamai, this kirpa, this much bad and bandagi. Only you can do this. So Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji said to them, to the Pandits, go to Delhi, because that's where Aurangzeb was, yeah? Tell Aurangzeb that your Guru is a Shastratari, as in they carry weapons on them. That your Guru is here, ready and waiting. And tell them that this Guru will save all these people, because if he can convert me, then he'll be able to convert the whole world. And with these words, Maharajan sent them. And as this happened, the Pandits had then reached Aurangzeb at the Red Fort in Delhi. This building, this Red Fort, you can still see today. This is where Aurangzeb was sat. And the word had spread, and the Brahmins and the priests got together and they went to Delhi. They waited and they met with Aurangzeb. And when they went to the Red Fort, the first thing they did is they bowed in front of Aurangzeb. Yeah? They bowed. This is a very important lesson here. And the reason why I'm showing this is because you recognize this picture at the bottom of the Chote Sahibs out there. When they had to go into Wazir Khan's court, and they were given a small door to walk through, what did they do? Yeah?
They just shouted, "Why Guruji ka Khalsa, why Guruji?"
They did do that. But what did they do entering the door, Hanji?
They went on their hands and knees so their feet wouldn't touch the floor in Bhagavad.
They what?
Their cash wouldn't touch the floor, so they went in like crouching.
Not quite, they didn't do that yet.
Wait, did they just like go in like this?
Yeah, so they put their feet in first.
They don't want to.
They didn't want to do Matha Tek to Wazir Khan, so they put their feet in first. Yeah? Because what Wazir Khan had done is in the door was probably about this tall. So to go through it, you naturally have to crawl through like this, don't you? But the Chote Sahibs out there said, we're not bowing down to them. So they put their feet in first. And what they were showing to Wazir Khan is the power of the Khalsa, and Guru Gobind Singh is with us. We don't bow to you. We don't bow to evil people. Right? We keep our head high. So in Adas we say, Man niva, mat utti. So our man is our mind, we keep it niva, i.e. in humility. But our thinking we keep high because we don't perform bad things. We always make sure we're doing the right thing. We always bow to Sri Guru Granth Sahib Ji, but we don't bow to false people. Yeah? And this way the Pandits did this as well. And this was an interesting part of the Katha, because what they were explaining here is the Khalsa, we don't bow to evil. Yeah? We always keep our morals high. Now, as part of the story, what happened is someone called Ram Rai. Now Ram Rai was the son of Sri Guru Har Rai Sahib Ji Maharaj. Now Ram Rai used to go and see Aurangzeb, and Ram Rai would do things like clever tricks and mystical powers, because they had these Shaktis, these powers. And they would change Gurbani to please Aurangzeb. Yeah? They did these things. Now Aurangzeb, because of meeting Ram Rai, knew that these Sikhs do have Shaktiya Hagyanago, Vidya Siddhya Shakti Hagyana, and they've got these powers. So Aurangzeb was intrigued, and he goes, I've previously seen people like Ram Rai do these powers. And he spoke badly of Guru Nanak Dev Ji. So Aurangzeb said, well look, if Ram Rai, who was just the son of a Guru, could do these powers, imagine what powers an actual Guru could do if I have him in my possession. So Aurangzeb was thinking, right, if I get Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji, if I get their powers, if I get them to do powers, and I scare them and they become my servant, then I've got no problems, right? Everybody will become Islamic. So Aurangzeb sends a letter to Guru Maharaj. Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji, look at the sweet words they use, yeah? Look at the sweetness here. Bless us with your darshan Delhi. I've heard your praise from many people and would like to meet with you. Now, this is a very interesting point because it relates there. Political people, or people have evil motives, or have bad swordsmanship, but from the outside will show you such love and will make you feel so special and do everything they want. In the back of their minds, they've actually got evil intentions. And what they'll do is they'll use these sweet approaches with you and treat you nicely and say nice things to get your way. But we know even today, with the situation in India with the farmers who are peacefully protesting for their rights, yeah? People want to be sweet and politically write all these great stuff and help them and say, we're going to do this for you. But in the back of their head, all those people care about is making sure I get rid of these people to make my money from these people. Yeah? So this is the way that Aurangzeb worked. Now what had happened at this time is the message had reached Aurangzeb that Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji now said that we're ready for you. Maharaj has said, we are the Guru. We will protect these people, we will give our Sikhs. Now what happened was, when the letter was received, Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji said, I will make my way to you. I'm going to come to you. In the Gatha, Vishal Singh was saying that if a murderer is going to come and murder you, he'll come to your house. You don't go to a murderer's house, do you? But Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji is going to their murderer. Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji aren't sprayed. They've stood up, they've taken 5 Sikhs with them, and they're going to walk now to Delhi. So Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji basically, their mother was Mata Nanki, who was the wife of Sri Guru Hargobind Ji Maharaj. Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji namaskar to their mother. They said Fateh to their wife Mata Gurjar Ji. They said Fateh to their son Guru Gobind Rai. And they basically gave a budget, Asi hum ja rahe, Asi wapas nahi aana. They said to them, we're going and we're coming back. And he said that Mata Nanki said, okay, when you go with a smile on your face, because you're going to return with a smile on your face. And I'll explain what Mataji meant by that in the later part of it. So as I've mentioned, 5 Sikhs leave in Maharaj. Now when Guru Arjan Dev Ji were going to have Shaheed at the hands of Shah Jahan, and then there was someone called Jandulal as well. Guru Arjan Dev Ji had taken 5 Sikhs with them, by Jetha Ji, by Langaha Ji, by Vidhi Chand Ji, by Prana Ji, and by Paita Ji. Now by Prana, by Vidhi Chand, they have a very other history as well, which is great, and one day we can talk about that. Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji had taken 5 Sikhs with them. You will know these names. So we had by Matidas Ji, by Satidas Ji. They were brothers. They were quite elderly. They were in their 70s. Yeah. You had Bhai Diyala Ji, and then you had 2 other Guru Sikhs. You had Bhai Uday Ji and Bhai Guru Ditta Ji. Bhai Guru Ditta Ji was from Baba Buddha Ji's lineage. And Baba Buddha Ji, as we know, was with all the first 6 Guru Sahibs. Yeah. And they were the first Granthi of Siddhi Darbar Sahib Guru Sahib. So let's just wrap up this part of the first chapter. So where are we? So we know that the Brahmin priests, they came to Guru Sahib. They did Benti to Guru Sahib. That the Hindus are now being forcefully converted. They are ripping our Granths apart. They are torturing us. They are killing us. Aurangzeb then sends a letter after Guru Tegh Bahadur has given a reply. And Maharaj are now making their way now to march towards Delhi from Anandapur side. Now, in terms of the journey now between Anandapur side and Delhi, obviously at that time you were walking by foot. They didn't have cars, and it took quite long to do. And in doing so, they would stop off in various places. The first place that Maharaj stopped off was a Muslim man called Saif Udain. Yeah? Now Saif Udain was a very rich person. They had a lot of money, a lot of wealth, but they had a good heart. And they also had a lot of shraddha from Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji Maharaj. And what they would do is Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji would come and stay with them. They would go and pick beautiful fruits from their garden, from their orchids, bring it to them, and they would place it in front of Guru Sahib, and Guru Sahib would then eat that, and they would make langar and prashadha for Maharaj as well. Maharaj had that. Maharaj was so happy with Sufidain because of their Kamai and their love for them, that Maharaj gave them 3 commands, 3 bachans, 3 upadesh. Yeah? So always recite Naam, and no suffering will ever come to you. Do seva of the Sangat, and you will receive more and more bliss. And what they said to him is, when your life comes to an end and you're going to leave this world, you won't ever be born again. And what that means is, in Gurbani we talk about mukti or kalyan, and what that means is your soul becomes one with God, and you never have to come back into this life cycle of birth and death. You're one with God forever now. Now, to mark these places, there's two gurdwaras, Gurdwara Dukh Nivaran Sahib and Gurdwara Mukti Pahad, and these gurdwaras commemorate Guru Sahib's journey when they stayed with Sufi. And the name of the place was now changed from Saifabad to Bahadur, yeah, in memory of the Tegh Maharaj. Then Maharaj had reached somewhere called Sumana, and there was a Pathan. A Pathan is a soldier, Nawab Bikhan Shah. Now, there were some very well-to-do Pathans, yeah, people of the Afghan origin as well. And they were in charge of this area of Sumana. And they had built 5 small forts around the place. Now, one of these Pathan, whose name was Bikhan Shah, he was very much aware of Guru Sahib. And in fact, he had done darshan of Guru Sahib before themselves as well. And again, he was quite a wealthy man, and he was someone of great status. But he had a lot of nimrata. Nimrata means humility, yeah? Humbleness. And in this humility, he placed his head on the ground and did namaskar to Sri Guru Tegh Maharaj. And Bikhan Shah was saying, Maharaj, bless me, you've come to my house. Let me do your seva. Consider me your servant. But what happened at this time is there were soldiers that were now starting to look for Guru Tegh Bahadur. Because while Guru Sahib had still sent a message saying that we're going to come to you, Aurangzeb had still sent soldiers. And what happened is these soldiers had reached the area where Bikhan Shah was. And he had seen on the floor that there was horse drugs, because Maharaj had 6 horses with them, all the Singhs had 6 horses. And he saw that there was footsteps on the floor because it was sand. And they questioned Bikhan Shah. Who are you? What are you doing here? Where are these people? Whose tracks are these? And Bikhan Shah became very angry. I'm a Muslim man. I don't know any Sikhs. I don't harbour any Sikhs. Stop questioning me. Get out of my land. He became very angry. And what happened is, as he got angry, he felt quite bad that he had to lie. That he had to lie about not knowing Guru Sahib. And then he went into the Benti to Maharaj. Okay, Maharaj, look, I've done this mistake. I'm very sorry for this, that I've had to lie. But Guru Tegh Maharaj blessed them and said that you've recognised your mistake, but also you were doing this to help us make sure that we reach to Delhi to fulfill our duty. Right? And there's a Gurdwara here called Sri Kari Sahib. And this particular is where Bikhan Shah's house used to be. And now there's a beautiful darbar there with a nice sarovar as well, where you can do darshan of this journey. Then Maharaj moves on to another village. Now, a masan in those days was somebody that would collect money on behalf of the Khalsa from all the villages, and they would collect that money, then they would give it to Guru Sahib. That was what masan's job was, that was their seva. Now, there was one masan that was very scared because he knew Aurangzeb was powerful. So when he knew Guru Tegh Bahadur was coming through his house, he hid under his bed and he said to his family, if anybody comes knocking, don't tell them I'm here and don't let Guru Tegh Bahadur in. So some masans didn't have that bravery that others did as well. So he didn't get darshan of Maharaj either. But then Maharaj moves to another village, and in this village Maharaj had met someone called Gilora. Now Gilora was an orphan, and at a young age Guru Tegh Bahadur helped raise them, and Guru Har Gobind Ji raised them as well. And Guru Sahib had given them money, they helped them get married, they bought them a house, and Guru Sahib did a lot of their dine as well. And also Gilora was somebody that used to come and do great seva. Now the Masan Gilora himself was quite a good person, and he was told by Guru Tegh Bahadur Maharaj, keep doing your seva, keep doing nimrata, always stay on the right path. But there's a very big important lesson about Gilora, because Gilora then went down a wrong path at the end. You see what happened, as he became quite powerful in his area, he was very influential. So in those days in the Bind, if there was a dispute, yeah, you would go to the person who's head of the Bind, and they would help sort it out. Yeah? There wasn't any committees or stuff in those days. It was one person that would run it, and then they would go and see what was happening. But what happened is there was a dispute between the Rangretas and the Kisans. The Kisans who knows what were farmers. And what had happened is Gilora purposely supported the Kisans, and the Rangreta didn't. In fact, the Rangreta got killed as a result of some of the deceit he did. And it's also said in this that as a result his family finished, and he didn't carry on because of the wrong things he did after the blessings he had. Now after this, Maharaj had reached another place. Jekka is a village, and they met someone called Karike. And they set up a camp, and where they set up the camp, they was having a conversation, and the Sikhs were talking to Maharaj and saying, Maharaj, it feels like these Mughals have built up great karma as their rule is big and strong. And what we say this is, if there is a king or a queen sat on the throne, they're only sat on the throne because they've built such great karma. Yeah? So even the queen now, in her past life, she would have done a lot of bhakti, or she would have done some great punya to be able to get that jaga. Yeah? And they were talking about, look how big the Mughal empire is. Look how rich the Mughal empire is. But they're doing such wrong even though they've had good karma. And they're hunting the budget about the qualities of a king. And what they said is that a king should always try and deliver justice, stay away from corruption, and be freed of greed. They should look after the people equally, not differentiate between who's high, who's low, who's rich, who's poor. They should have compassion. The first quality of any Khalsa is to be compassionate. Yeah? So in Japanese we say, daya, yes, so daya, compassion, is the first quality we should have. He should bring people happiness, take away their pains, give to the people, and help get rid of thieves and bad things. These are the qualities. And Guru Sahib spoke about Emperor Akbar and Aurangzeb. You see, Akbar was actually quite a well-to-do king. He was a dharmic person, i.e. he respected religions. He would actually hold courts of different religions to come together, like an interfaith type of dialogue they would have. He sat in Bangla. In fact, he walked barefoot to Govindwal. What king walks, first of all, and barefoot to Govindwal? They did namaskar, and they sat and they had langar with all the poor, greedy people as well. So he had a lot of respect. But he said Aurangzeb, however, is a malicious, very evil person. He doesn't have those great qualities. Now one night when Guru Tegh Bahadurji after was sleeping, there was people that saw the 6 horses Guru Sahib had. And they said, these horses look very good, we're going to steal them at night. So what happened is when the Sikhs were asleep and Maharaj was asleep, these 6 men quickly walked towards the horses. And as they went to grab the wire of the horse, they instantly went blind. Instantly went blind. When they stepped away, their sight came back. They went back again, grabbed the horses, and they went blind again. And this happened for about 3 or 4 times. And when this kept happening, they realized these are no ordinary people. There's somebody here with great Shakti. Shakti means power. There's someone here with great power that's able to do this to us. We are doing wrong by attacking a holy person. And what happened was, in the thieves had then done the benti to Maharaj. Maharaj, we made a big galti. We tried to steal from you. We recognize and realize with your power that you are someone big. They then did seva for Maharaj. They bought milk, yogurt, they bought rice, they bought ghee, they bought fruit, and they gave it all to Maharaj. And what they said to Guru Sahib is that, Maharaj, we are sinner farmers of this area. We are very low. Only you can save us. We have come here to ask for your forgiveness. Please do kirpa, be compassionate, that we will also become your Sikhs and that we will stay away from this trying to steal. Now, what happened was is that because Maharaj recognized that they become pure, because we all do galtiya, yeah? Anybody can make a mistake. I make mistakes millions of times a day. But the main thing about doing a mistake is recognizing you've done a mistake, but also having that faith in Maharaj that you will help us, correct us. Now, Maharaj said that because you did good, we will help you. And what they realized in the area, the pani wasn't sweet, the pani had a bad taste. So Guru Tegh Bahadurji took a tir, an arrow, and he shot the arrow. And he said, where this arrow lands, that area will forever have sweet water. And the wells were created as well. So that even in that jaga today, the pani is still sweet because of Guru Tegh Bahadurji. As we move on now, Maharaj now reads Agra. Does anybody know a famous building in Agra? Very famous. The Taj Mahal, yeah? Who's been to the Taj Mahal? You've been to Taj Mahal, yeah? Yeah? But you've all seen pictures of Taj Mahal, yeah? There's a beautiful big building. Now that building is typical Mughal architecture. So the Mughals would build beautiful grand buildings like that. They had beautiful gardens with lovely flowers and plants and trees and decor because they had so much money. Now what happened is Maharaj had now reached Agra and they met someone called Ayali, which was a goat herder. Now Maharaj was sat at the Thala side that was there on a raised platform under a tree. They were doing bhakti and they focused immensely. And this goat herder had basically come through the garden and walked past. Now he didn't know who Guru Sahib was. He was carrying on his business. He had no intention or idea about knowing about anything like that. And Guru Tegh Bahadurji said, come over here. Can you do something for me? Yeah? I will pay you. I will give you money for this. But do this one thing for me. And he said, Maharaj said, I'll keep an eye on your goats, nothing will happen to your goats. So Maharaj had a very expensive ring, yeah? Called a sharp, it was called, yeah? It was a ring which had a diamond in it. Maharaj took their ring off and they gave this diamond to this goat herder. And they said, what I want you to do is go to the village, purchase some prashade, some chapatis, yeah? And also get some mitha, some sweets from the village. But Maharaj said, make sure you bring the nicest, most expensive sweets. If you can't get prashade, just bring mitha. We really want to eat something sweet today. But most importantly, hurry and be quick. And the goat herder said, I'm a very poor man. My kapre are filthy. If I walk into a village with a diamond gold ring, I'm going to be accused of a thief. I'm going to get arrested. People are going to kill me. They know I've done some Geordie. So what Maharaj did is they had an expensive shawl. Maharaj had a shawl on them. Right? And they gave the shawl and they said, wrap the shawl around you, cover the ring up and go. But don't worry, you'll be okay. And they said again, bring back mitha, but come back quick. Now this was really odd because the Sikhs were sitting there and saying, Guru Sahib are above eating sweet things or having that fulfillment. You know, sometimes when we eat something sweet, like cake, we have a desire to eat cake because we're greedy, right? That's why we want cake. But if our mum gives us a prashadda and a little bit of dal, we're not happy with that, are we? Right? We want more than just a prashadda and dal, yeah? That's the reality. We want cake with it, or we want chips and beans or whatever with it, right? Because we get greedy, don't we? This reality, we get greedy. I'm the same. Yeah? If I don't have chips and beans, I get angry. So we're all the same. So the Sikhs were really worried, saying, Maharaj are very simple in their diet and their diet. They don't indulge in these things. What's going on? Now what happened was, as this goat herder went into the village, they were getting the prashad and they were getting the mitha. And as they gave the gold ring, the thing happened that they were afraid of, that they were now being accused by the shopkeeper. That he's done a Geordie, he's stolen this, look at him, he's a goat herder. How can he have a diamond ring? And what happened was, the soldiers had now started to get together. The soldiers saw the commotion. The shopkeeper said to the soldiers, he's stolen something. And as they got together, the goat herder said, no. There's someone sat in your garden on a thara side, on a parade platform, and he's told me to do this. I'll take you to him. You can see him yourself, and he will tell you what's going on. Now, Bhai Matidas, who were in their elderly age at this time, had seen this, and had seen the soldiers had come in. The soldiers were instructed, go and find out which village these people are from, who they are, why they're here, and what they're doing. And as Bhai Matidas, you spotted them coming, Maharaj said to them, the one you sent to go to the shop is now coming running. But he's got soldiers with him. He ain't got no food. Guru Sahib called his Sikhs and said to them, you are right. He has come and he's brought the messenger of death rather than the goat coming back with mitha. Then the soldiers began questioning Guru Tegh Bahadurji, asking who they were, where they had come from. And Guru Tegh Bahadurji, with such nimrata and humility, said, I am Tegh Bahadur, and I have come here as a result of coming to your empire, coming to Aurangzeb. Now, what happened at this time as well is when everyone had realized it was Guru Tegh Bahadurji, 400 soldiers were sent to bring Guru Tegh Bahadurji. 400 soldiers to bring 6 people were sent to bring Guru Tegh Bahadurji back. Now Maharaj was speaking to one of them, and they were being questioned by the soldiers. Are you the one the Hindus follow? Where do you live? Why are you here? Maharaj said, the king of the world is Guru Nanak. We are the slaves of Guru Nanak. I come from Punjab. My name is Tegh Bahadur, and I am part of the Sodhi clan. So Sodhi was basically the lineage that Guru Ram Das Ji had come from. And Guru Nanak Dev Ji Maharaj had come from a lineage known as the Bedis. Yeah? And the Bedi and the Sodhi family can be reached back all the time to the times of Sri Ram Chandra. Yeah? That's another long ityasa katha that we talk about. But historically speaking, this is the lineage they came from. But the Sodhi family, the Sodhi name was a very powerful name because it was full of warriors. Famous warriors were part of the Sodhi family. So what happened at this point then is when Guru Sahib were taken by these people, the people said, our Badshah has sent many letters instructing us to find you. They're going to be so happy with us that we found you because they're going to reward us now that we've captured you. And Guru Sahib said to them that Maharaj was talking to them with great, there's a Sakhi here as well, I won't say the Sakhi, but Maharaj was responding to them with great humility. They were talking quite aggressively to Maharaj, but Maharaj spoke to them quite sweetly back. And it's worth remembering that if someone talks with nimrata, and if you're talking to a very angry person like me, an angry person like me, who's shouting and screaming, but if you talk to me in nimrata or someone nimrata, that person will automatically come down into nimrata. Because let's say, for example, if me, Gurnam, Harnam, or whatever, got into a fight, yeah? They'll both beat me up, but if we got into a fight, yeah? And we start shouting at each other, and if he does something to me, my reaction is to do something back to him, isn't it? If he hits me, my intention is to hit him back. But this is where the Sakhi teaches us how we control, how we remain in nimrata, how we can remain in humility. Because even if you're hit, it still doesn't matter, we can still sort the situation out. Now what happened at this point now is Aurangzeb had now sent letters, they had given direction to their officers, bring Guru Sahib here, we want to see them as well. And at this time as well, there was people called a Vizier. A Vizier was a person who was like an advisor to Aurangzeb, right? And they were sent many times to go and see with them. And at this point from Agra, Aurangzeb had now sent 12,000 people to go and get this, and go and get Tegh Bahadur back to them as well. Now when the Vizier met Maharaj, the Viziers were saying, Maharaj, our king is happy, we found you, why don't you just consider becoming a Muslim? This is the first time it was said to them. Become a Muslim. We will make you the king. You will be happy, everyone will be happy. And Maharaj listened and said, if I don't obey your emperor, what can he do to you? Yeah. Aurangzeb only rules a small part of the world, but God rules the entire manifestation of the universe. How is your Aurangzeb going to compare to a God called Vaheguru? How can God, or how can Aurangzeb be compared to God? He just rules a small part of that. And what Guru Sahib said is that it's Allah who gives us life, who nourishes us. He gives us sustenance. And when the time comes, it's Allah who will take us away. So what power does your king have? Your king doesn't have any power. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to slowly slip the part of this now, because I'm conscious of time, and just take you some of the things that happened. So the first thing that happened is when Aurangzeb had got hold of Tegh Bahadur, the first thing that the Vizier said is, Maharaj, to Aurangzeb, let's scare Guru Tegh Bahadur. If we show that he's scared, and he comes begging us for mercy, then we'll make him up. So what they did is, there's a Haveli. Haveli is a haunted mansion. Okay? There was a haunted mansion. And this mansion was scary. People would not go there. And they locked Guru Tegh Bahadur into the mansion. And it was said that when Guru Tegh Bahadur was being taken to this mansion, the soldiers were so scared that Maharaj Agisige or Pichir, they didn't want to go near the mansion because they knew there was a bhoot in there, there was a ghost in there that terrorizes people. Now what happened is, I'm going to say this so you kids don't get scared, yeah? But at 12 o'clock midnight, Maharaj was sat in this samadhi, and the ghost appeared. Instantly, the ghost did Mata Tegh to Guru Tegh Bahadur. In the Mata Tegh to Guru Tegh Bahadur. And what happened with the ghost is, the ghost had said, Maharaj, I know who you are, I know why you're here. If you give me permission, I will rip all the Mughals apart. I will leave this mansion in my evil spirit and go rip them apart. And Maharaj had been to them, and Maharaj had budged to them. We aren't here to attack, you aren't attacking anybody. The Sikhs that I've got with me, they've got so much Shakti that if Bhai Mati Das wishes to lift his toe, he could uproot the whole Mughal empire like that. This is the Shakti that they had. The Guru Tegh Bahadur said, this is what we're going to do. And then the ghost explained to Maharaj why they're here. What the ghost said is, when I was alive, I became so possessive over this house that I even stopped my own family from coming here. And when I died, I was trapped here. And even now, if people come into my mansion, I attack them. The ghost did Namaskar. The ghost then went and got Prashad Dev through, gave it to Maharaj. Maharaj had sugar cane as well. Maharaj ripped the sugar cane off. And they drank the juice, and they threw the peels of the sticks out where the Sikhs were sitting. And then the ghost had taken the peels and eaten it as well. And then from there, Maharaj blessed them. So the first test of trying to scare Maharaj didn't work at all. Maharaj had pushed it back. Now, Maharaj meets Aurangzeb for the first time. And what happens is Aurangzeb now asked them that you've come here, become a Muslim. If you want to become a Muslim, you'll be great. Because Aurangzeb said, my ichha, my desire is to make only one religion in this world. मेरी इच्छा है कि इस सारा हिंदुस्तान इस्लाम कबूल करना. सिर्फ इस्लाम पर किया जाए, वो कोई धर्म ना हो. And I've highlighted this really important point here because this relates to a lot of us here. While it's good to sometimes do things positive for your community and to help people, we never force our opinions on anybody. Yeah? It's really important, even you youngsters as Khalsa that would grow up, we may have different beliefs or we might hear different things. We never, ever, ever, ever force our opinions or our ways of doing things onto everyone. We never force, we help with brain, with love, with humility. Yeah? If I force you to do something, what's the first thing you're going to do? You're going to reject it, aren't you? So we don't force. And historically in this Gurdwara, people have tried to force things onto people. People have tried to make people think different things. A Guru Gar is not about forcing people. A Guru Gar is about you as an individual becoming one with Guru Sahib. Yes, we believe in our Maryada, we believe in our code of conduct, we stand firmly on those things. What I'm going to do is just very quickly skip through and just teach you one more Saki before we go on to the actual part now when the Shaheed start happening, because the Gatha is very long still. When Aurangzeb was talking to them about converting everyone over, Mara said to him, okay, I'm going to prove to you what God's will is. And so what Guru Sahib said to Aurangzeb was, is get 200 kilograms of whole black peppers, make a pile, place wood on them, set the peppers alight, and let them burn for 24 hours. Now, anybody who's dealt with black peppers, I've written here as well, that they burn very quickly. Yeah? Black pepper burn very quickly. But Guru Sahib wanted the fire to burn for 24 hours. Now, after 24 hours had burned, what had happened was Guru Sahib had brought back in. Aurangzeb called for them and they said, what's the reason for you burning these? And Guru Sahib replied and said, let's now remove all your doubts and make you understand what's happening here. The servants came and basically wherever was burnt, they moved to one side. And when they moved to one side, there were 3 peppers left. 3 intact peppers. And Aurangzeb said, what does this mean? You've got 3 here. And Guru Sahib responded, Aurangzeb, I thought you were smarter than this. You should understand by now what's happening. They said, if the hukum was that only Islam would reign, there would only be 1 pepper left. But there's 3 peppers left. There's the Hindu Dharam, the Islam Dharam, and the 3rd Dharam would be the Khalsa Panth. This is the Upadesh Guru Sahib said. Aurangzeb's advisors became angry by this. They were furious. So what they said, let's torture them. We're going to start stopping them from eating. We're going to starve them. And Maharaj were put into this pinjara. So a pinjara is a cage. Yeah? And in the cage were spikes. You can't stand in this. You can't sit in this. You couldn't raise your head in this. Maharaj were kept in that pinjara. Yeah? Very uncomfortable. So imagine Kripal, your size, but you've got something even smaller than you that you have to sit in with spikes poking it out. That's how it was. Now what they did is they wanted to force conversion. So they got a cow and they killed the cow in halal, yeah, because that's how Islam does it. They killed the cow in halal. Then they got a big pot and they boiled it, they cooked it. And then they got 2 of the servants to come. And they said, right, we're going to force them to eat the cow. Hindus don't eat cow and they don't eat halal. If we get Guru Tegh Bahadur to do both, then he's going to be ours for sure. So they killed this cow, they cooked this cow. They brought the cow to them. And the 2 men were sent to where the prison was with this big dish. So Guru Sahib said, what is this? If I eat it, what pleasure will come to you? And Guru Sahib just said to them, for you guys to try and break someone's dharam, yeah, this is anti-Islam. You are breaking your own rules by doing this. You're going to bring great suffering to people by doing this. Why do you want to do this? So Guru Sahib said, you can't break my faith. But when you pick up the pot, I want you to look into the pot. What animal do Islamic people never go near? Pigs. The pot opened and pigs came flying out. There was a scene. These pigs were running everywhere and these soldiers were screaming and running all over the place because they don't touch them. But what the point here is that Maharaj was saying to them, is that what you don't understand is when someone has faith from God, their servant is never, ever, ever able to be attacked by anyone. So, just wrapping up this part of the Saki. So Maharaj were now tortured, they were put in this pinjara, they were now starved, they were trying to do clever tricks and they couldn't do it. And what we're going to do now, I'm just going to skip this bit because now we're getting to the part of where the Saki will start, of when the history will happen. So Bhai Mati Das. Now Bhai Mati Das became angry. They were furious. You're treating my Maharaj like this. You're saying all these things about my Maharaj. I'm not having it. And one of the viziers heard about Bhai Das talking in great anger. And the vizier, or at that time, the priest at the time, said to Aurangzeb, okay, let's cut Bhai Das in half. Let's stop him from talking. Yeah? We'll cut him in half. So at Chandni Chowk, which is an area in Delhi, Aurangzeb had basically signed off the deal. Yeah? The fatwa was signed. The sentence was given that Bhai Das was going to be killed now. I remember Bhai Das was the one that was screaming back at the soldiers, was answering back to them, and the Mughals didn't like this defiance that was happening as well. Now, on one side of Chandni Chowk, Guru Sahib were there in their pinjra, the metal cage, and on the other side, Bhai Das, he was there. And what they did to Bhai Das, they built this wooden frame that was really tight to their body. Basically, their body was holding like this, so they couldn't move. They couldn't move at all. And it said at this point that one of the Mughals, and I read this in another part of the Gatha, that the Mughals had said to them, okay, where's your Shakti and Takat now? What are you going to do now? And this went by Das said, even though my body can't move, my little toe can, with my little toe I'll destroy you. But Gurudev Bhaji gave them hukum, we're not going to destroy anybody. This is not the hukum, it's not what we're going to do. And what happened is Bhai Das had now started to recite Japji Sahib Path. Because at this point, there was no fear. Yeah? The vizier at the time said, what we're going to do is we're going to take a sword at the top of your head, we're going to take the start off, we're going to open your white gears, and from the middle of your forehead, the top of your head, we're going to start sawing your head. You can avoid all of this and have the pleasure of the world. You don't have to have this. And Bhai Das said to them, and this is the power of the Khalsa. Bhai Das said, I've experienced all the pleasures of the world. Now let me experience the pleasure of your soul. Yeah? Show me the pleasure that your soul can bring me. So Bhai Das was then said, right, you're not going to convert, what's your last request? And he said, my only request is when you're sawing me, my body halfway through, and I'm leaving this world, let me face my Guru. Yeah? Because in the Islamic tradition, before they execute someone, you're allowed one last wish. So what happened is Gurudev Balaji was sat in the Pinjara, and Bhai Das were facing him, and the saw had started. And as the saw had started, Bhai Das had started to recite Japji Sahib Path. But Bhai Das, part of the Katha that I read, were worried because they said that Maharaj, when my tongue gets cut in half, my Japji Sahib Path will stop. Look at the bravery that they were more concerned about the Path not stopping rather than their body being cut in half. And Maharaj said to them, "Tu fikr na kar, your jeeb, your body will still recite Japji Sahib Path." Yeah? So you can imagine, Bhai Das was grey and white. Their whole entire body was red now. There was nothing white on them anymore. The saw had started to be sawn and Japji Sahib Path had started. In the whole of Delhi and Chandni Chowk, people were thinking that he's going to scream, he's going to cry, he's going to be in pain. But all they could hear was Japji Sahib Path coming from Bhai Das' city. And Gurudev Balaji sat in Samadhi, while Bhai Das was facing them, Japji Sahib Path had started. And it's also said that their body, Bhai Das, is completely came like this. It was completely sawn in half. And this is obviously a very famous picture of Bhai Das that we all know of. This is something to be remembered in our history. Probably one of the most brutal executions that ever happened to someone in Busa. Now, Bhai Sati Das was the brother. They had watched this, and they had seen what happened. And they had also become Biras. They had got so much bravery and Shakti because of their Maharaji. They were ready now to give their cease as well. Now what happened was, is by Udayji and by Gurudittaji, the two Sikhs that were in Maharaj were told to leave. So they left to go back to Anandpur to report back to Guru Gobind Rai and to inform the Khalsa Panth of what was happening as well. Now, when Bhai Das was sawn in half, all Guru Tegh Bahadurji said was, Dan Sikhi, Dan Sikhi, Dan Sikhi. That was the only bachan he gave at that time. What happened is there was a Sikh that was sent from Anandpur side by Guru Gobind Rai. And they came to Guru Tegh Bahadurji and said, Maharaj, Mata Nanki ji, your mother, and your wife Mother Gujaji are missing you. There's so much bad art. Please can you give me something that I can take them to give them courage. And this is where Slok Mahalla Nowa Part was written. In prison, Maharaj wrote Slok Mahalla Nowa Part. So Slok Mahalla Nowa Part is 3 angs towards the end of Guru Granth Sahib Ji Maharaj, which we read at every part of the book. So when we read Sloka Mahalla Nova, understand Maharaj had written this while they were in prison, getting ready to die. It's a very important Bani for us. After they had written the Guru Sloka Mahalla Nova, while Maharaj was still alive, they had now passed the Guru Gaddi to Guru Gobind Rai. And what happened was, is the Sikh that was there, he was told to bring a nadia, which is a coconut, 5 paise. Maharaj did prakarma to it, Maharaj did namaskar to it. They gave it to the Sikh and said, Guru Di Padvi hum tusi Gobind Rai nu de do. Take the Shabad back with them as well. So while both Gurus were still alive, Guru Tegh Bahadurji had given the Guru Gaddi and given it to Guru Gobind Rai while they were still alive at the same time. Yeah? And Guru Gobind Rai must have been about 10 years old at this time when this happened. So this is a very important thing about this as well. And here's a very famous picture of when Guru Gobind Singh Ji Maharaj were given the Guru Gaddi. And it's worth noting that in the times of the Gurus, they would put a tilak, yeah, on the forehead of when it's passed on. Don't be under any illusions that this is anti-Gurmat or this is a bad nonsense. It existed in times of the Gurus. Tilak was done. And even today, some of the Khalsa and the Hang Singh still do tilak because they believe the Khalsa Panth is the Guru Panth. Yeah? And it's worth noting that there's an error here in the message here. There was someone called Bahadur. He was a great-grandson of our Buddhaji. They were 10 years old, and they were given the seva, put in the tilak on Guru Gobind Rai and became Guru. So, Bhai Satidas Ji. Bhai Satidas Ji now were told, right, we've killed your brother. Do you want to convert to Islam, or are you going to face the same trial? They said, we're not converting. We're going to stay where we are. My brother has fares gone to Sachkhand. We're going to get ready. So they said, fine. If that's the case, what we're going to do, we're going to wrap you in cotton wool. We're going to set you alight and we'll let you burn. Thinking that would scare them. And again, it didn't scare them. And so what happened? While Guru Tegh Bahadurji sat in the Pinjara, Bhai Satidas would then burn. It's worth noting in our history as well. I'll say this a bit in Punjabi because of the kids. But ਜਦੋਂ ਉਹਨੂੰ ਅੱਗ ਲਵਾਈ ਸੀਗੀ ਉਹ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਸੀ ਅੱਧੀ ਸਰੀਰ ਇੱਥੇ ਤੱਕ ਪੂਰੀ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਸਾੜ ਦਿੱਤਾ ਗਿਆ ਸੀਗਾ ਕੋਈ ਹੱਡੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਦਿਸੀ ਕੋਈ ਸਕਿਨ ਨਹੀਂ ਦਿਸਿਆ ਸੀਗਾ ਪੂਰੀ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਇੱਥੇ ਤੱਕ ਪੂਰਾ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦਾ ਸਰੀਰ ਸਾੜ ਦਿੱਤਾ ਸੀਗਾ ਭਾਈ ਸਤਿਦਾਸ ਜੀ but ਇਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਕੋਈ ਚੀਕਾਂ ਨਹੀਂ ਆਈ ਸੀ ਕੋਈ ਆਵਾਜ਼ ਨਹੀਂ ਸੀ ਜਪਜੀ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਦਾ ਪਾਠ ਉਹ ਵੀ ਕਰਦੇ ਸੀਗੇ ਤੇ ਫਿਰ ਵੀ at this point Guru Tegh Bahadurji still said Tan Sikhi, Tan Sikhi, Tan Sikhi. Bhai Dayal Ji that were there was the elder brother of Bhai Mani Singh. So if you remember, Bhai Mani Singh was the one that was cut limb from limb, yeah? They were in the Granthis of Sri Darbasa. And again, Bhai Dayal Ji said, give me one last wish to see my Guru. They went to Maharaj, did Benti, Maharaj, give me the strength that I don't forsake this. Give me the strength that I can do this. And Maharaj gave him that wish. And again at this time, Maharaj were then taken. They were taken to Jandu Chowk as well. And with Bhai Dayal Ji, they had got a massive cauldron of boiling water. They had put Bhai Dayal Ji in it. ਇਹ ਵੀ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਦੇਖੋ ਕਿ ਹਾਲੇ ਵੀ ਇੱਥੇ ਤੱਕ ਨਹੀਂ ਹਟੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਜਦੋਂ ਟੱਕਰ ਲਾਇਆ ਸੀਗਾ ਨਾ ਉਹਦੇ ਉੱਪਰ ਇੱਕ ਪਾਰਾ ਪੱਥਰ ਵੀ ਰੱਖ ਦਿੱਤਾ ਸੀਗਾ ਤਾਂ ਫਿਰ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦਾ ਸੀਸ ਬਾਹਰ ਨਹੀਂ ਆ ਸਕਦਾ This was how bad they were. Yeah? That even that you couldn't come out because when you touch boiling water, what's the first thing that happens? You jump and you scream, you're out of there. ਉਹਦੇ ਉੱਪਰ ਟੱਕਰ ਲਾ ਕੇ ਇੱਕ ਜ਼ਿਆਦਾ ਪੱਥਰ ਵੀ ਪਾ ਕੇ ਤਾਂ ਫਿਰ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦਾ ਸਰੀਰ ਨਿਕਲ ਨਹੀਂ ਆ ਸਕਦਾ ਸੀਗਾ That's how they burned them apart. After this was done, we now come to the Shaheedi of Sri Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji Maharaj. There's something very important I just want to share. We're at the last part of the Katha now, yeah? The very last part of this. Maharaj's name means Tegh Bahadur. Yeah? It's a very important name. Now I remember reading somewhere, and I could be a bit wrong here, but I remember reading when Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji were 19 years old, they fought in a battle with Guru Har Gobind Ji at 19. And they used a shastra, a weapon called a dega, a deg. And they did it with such precision, with such courageous battlefield strength and strategy, that they were then given the name Guru Tegh Bahadur. Tegh means Shastra, which is the Shastra Dega. Bahadur means emperor or king of. So they were the emperor of the Dega. So if I show you, this is what a Dega will look like. Yeah? This Dega is a Puratan Dega. When we, this one's about 150, 200 years old. This Dega has been used in battle by the Singhs. Yeah? You can see there's Nishans here at the Singh's point as well. Now typically this is a smaller version of a dega, but a dega will be slightly thin hair and it will be heavy at the top and wider. And so what would happen is when someone would jala the dega in battle, it's top heavy, so the weight is at the top, not at the bottom. So whoever is using the dega has to be able to have good strength good precision, they have to have a lot of stamina because it's a very heavy weapon. At home I have more Tegh which are more heavier than this, and they weigh quite a lot. Sometimes you need 2 hands to pick them up as well. But this is why Maharaj were named Tegh Bahadur. Yeah? So Aurangzeb said, if you are named Tegh Bahadur after a sword, and you've let these people die like this, what does your name mean then? If you are Tegh Bahadur but you're not fighting, you're not picking up the Shastra, what's that reason for? And what Maharaj had said to them is, my father named me Tegh Bahadur. And if I've been named Tegh Bahadur, you should test your Tegh on my head. So Maharaj said to them, go and get a specific type of Tegh. They called the Tegh a Junabi Tegh, which is a different type of reed it was made from. And it was made with great precision. The best of the best would make this Tegh as well. Now the execution is ready to happen. Now when the execution happens, Maharaj were given a last wish. Now it's said in the history as well that Guru Tegh Bahadur Maharaj wore a white dastar and they wore a white jolla. And as they were being taken to the execution site, Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji were given one last wish, and they said, let us do Ishnan. And there was a well there, so they took the pani from the well, they had Ishnan, and they had to put those kapre back on. Same kapre were poured back on. And then Maharaj were taken. As Maharaj were taken, they then spoke to the executioner, someone called Shaheedi, and said, right, we're going to start Japji Sahib Park now. When I finish the last pauri, and I put my head down, then you take your Tegh and do what you're going to do. And at this time, there was someone called Bhai Jet Haji. Bhai Jet Haji was sat in the Sangat, and they were told by Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji, you're going to sit in the Sangat, and you're going to wait for my head, because you're going to have the seva of my head, Bhai Jet Haji. At this point, Saeed then gets ready, Slok was read, Jini naam te aaya, Gehim Sakatkar, Nanik te mukujle ki shuti nala. At that time, the Tegh was getting ready, and a storm erupted straight away in Delhi. There was confusion everywhere. And it's said that the Tegh never hit Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji. Maharaj's cease themselves came off their body, and it landed in Bhai Jet Haji's laps. Bhai Jet Haji quickly took Maharaj's cease, put it in their jolla, and they ran all the way towards Anandpur side. And through that journey of carrying Maharaj's head, I think it took 5 to 6 days they had the head. They would stop in people's houses that had bhavna for Maharaj. Remember I mentioned before that not all Muslim people are bad. There was a couple of Muslim people that Bhai Jet Haji stopped in at night. वो खड़े होकर Maharaj's cease को चोर साहब करते थे, Musliman. Yeah, the Muslims were doing chor sahib to Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji's head. So the cease had automatically come off and landed by Jet Haji's head. Bhai Jet Haji had taken the Sareer and they ran off. And then at the same time, the body was taken by Guru Sikh. So there was another Sikh who had a lot of wealth, a lot of power, a lot of richness. He took Maharaj's Sareer into the house and they burnt the whole house down. And it said that a Qazi, an Islamic priest, came over and said, is there a Quran in your house? Your house is burned, have you a Quran? Then a Brahmin came and said, is there a Bhagavad Gita in your house? That's their scriptures. And the Sikh said, Mere ghar de vich dono Quran hega, dono Bhagavad Gita hega, mere man de andar eh hega ki jo jehdi cheez was burning right now, the whole of Hindustan is burning. Kehna bhav hai ki because Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji were God. Aap vi Quran, aap vi Bhagavad Gita, all of the granths was in Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji's in their hands. Right? And this is the powerfulness of Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji. So, I've had to rush the very last bit of the Gatha because you can appreciate there's a lot to go through as well. But the main thing I want you to take away from this Gatha is this, is Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji fought with peace. And after that had happened, then the Khalsa was risen. Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji had rose. And after the Khalsa had risen is when Aurangzeb's army empire had finished. The Mughals finished then as well. So, we'll send the slides out to everyone that wants to read the slides for more information here as well. I'm sorry I've gone really wide over the time and you guys are tired as well. But the kata had to be slightly rushed, so please forgive me for that as well. So, I think now we're going to move on to the second part where the kids are now going to do some presentations. We're going to have one Shabbat and then there'll be Smarty of today's program as well, yeah? So, in your bendy everyone go near. Those of you who have come, the Gurdwara have really kindly bought calendars for everyone on Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji Maharaj. So this calendar was made by a group of Sikhs. There's different painters who have painted lovely pictures of Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji Maharaj in there. There's information for you in there as well. So I want to thank all the Sevadars of the Gurdwara who did this for the children as well. So all of you who have come, each of your household will be able to take a calendar home as well, yeah? So keep this calendar, lovely pictures in it for you as well, yeah? Okay, so forgive me for all the mistakes that I've made. Forgive me for running over time as well. Waheguru Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh. I'm now going to ask Salinda Bench to come and do the next part of the prayer.
The children are now going to present, bearing in mind the historical events of these few days, these few weeks that we've had, including the farmers' protest. So please, can we start with Sakneet Kaur Jiva to come and do her bit. It's all about the Char Sahibzade, Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji, Guru Gobind Singh Ji, and also the farmers' protest.
This is a brief summary of Mataji and her contributions to the Sikh faith. As a daughter, Mataji was brought up with the consciousness of the Guru's light. She fulfilled her parents' aspiration of serving the path of the Guru beyond their expectations by growing into a perfect role model of grace, strength, persistence, and sacrifice. As a wife, she supported Guru Tegh Bahadur when he was deep in meditation for years, again while he was on his missionary tour. And finally, when the Guru left for Delhi to make his supreme sacrifice. As a leader, after her husband, Guru Tegh Bahadur's martyrdom, she and her brother, Guru Chan, had the responsibility of managing the affairs of the Panth. She also organized the langar, or the community kitchen, and played an important role as the administrator of the army. She had an important role in inspiring the Khalsa army through the battles Guru Gobind Singh Ji had to fight. Her role in the Battle of Bangani is especially remembered. As a mother, she molded the father of the Khalsa, the great Guru Gobind Singh Ji, raising him as a single mother after the martyrdom of Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji, an inspiration to the young martyrs. When Mataji and the Sahibzade were arrested and confined in Shaheedi fort, and as the children were summoned to appear in the court each day, she kept urging them to remain steadfast in their faith. She constantly reminded the Sahibzade that their grandfather and great-grandfather had both sacrificed their lives to strengthen the ideals of Guru Nanak Dev Ji. Her support of her grandsons played such an important role in Sikhism that as Sikhs, we believe our existence why. It was due to her role that the 7 and 9-year-old children did not budge to their beliefs and maintained martyrdom. If the Sahibzade accepted Islam on that winter day, Sikhi probably wouldn't exist as it does today. So in fact, we stand tall because of the teachings and the inspiration Mataji provided to her grandsons and thousands of martyrs who gave their heads and not their faith. And as a martyr, while imprisoned on top of an open tower during the cold month of December, Mother Gurjari continually did Simran with no complaints about her physical condition. She attained martyrdom the same day as her grandsons, after hearing that her grandsons had been burnt alive rather than give up their faith. Her mission had been fulfilled.
Can we have Gopal Singh, please?
Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh. Today I'm going to tell you the conversation between Mata Gurji and the Short Sahibzade before their Shaheedi. ਬੁੱਢ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਬੇਟੀ ਦਾਦੀ ਬੱਚਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਸਮਝਾਵੇ। ਬੱਚਿਓ ਵੇ ਧਰਮ ਨਾ ਹਾਰਿਓ, ਸਿਰ ਜਾਵੇ ਤਾਂ ਜਾਵੇ, ਸਿਰ ਜਾਵੇ ਤਾਂ ਜਾਵੇ। ਵਿੱਚ ਜੰਡਨੀ ਚੌਂਕ ਤੁਹਾਡਾ ਬਾਬਾ ਸੀਸ ਕਟਾਇਆ, ਪਿਤਾ ਤੁਹਾਡਾ ਇਸ ਧਰਮ ਦੀ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਸਭ ਕੁਛ ਲਾਇਆ। ਵੇਖਿਓ ਬੱਚਿਓ ਆਪਣੀ ਪਿਓ ਦਾਦੇ ਦੀ ਪੱਗ ਨੂੰ ਦਾਗ ਨਾ ਲਾਇਓ। ਬੁੱਢ ਵਿੱਚ ਬੇਟੀ ਦਾਦੀ ਬੱਚਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਸਮਝਾਵੇ। ਬੁੱਢ ਵਿੱਚ ਬੇਟੀ ਦਾਦੀ ਬੱਚਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਸਮਝਾਵੇ। ਧਰਮ ਦੇ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਜਲਾ ਜਾਵੇ, ਬੱਚਿਓ ਵੇ ਜ਼ਿੰਦਗਾਨੀ। ਦੁਨੀਆ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਪਰਿਵਾਰ ਮੇਰੇ ਦੇ ਹਰਜ ਅਮਰ ਕਹਾਣੀ। ਬਾਰੀ ਬਾਰੀ ਮਾਤਾ ਚੂਹਾ ਕੁੱਟ ਕੁੱਟ ਛਾਤੀ ਲਾਵੇ। ਬੁੱਢ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਬੇਟੀ ਦਾਦੀ ਬੱਚਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਸਮਝਾਵੇ। ਬੁੱਢ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਬੇਟੀ ਦਾਦੀ ਬੱਚਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਸਮਝਾਵੇ। ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕਾ ਖਾਲਸਾ, ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕੀ ਫਤਿਹ।
Can we have Harman and Gordon, please?
This is a poem that's in tribute to the Charles Alexander. Leve Guru Papria La Tasimbalve, Leve Guru Papria La Tasimbalve, Miha Chashid Hoge Govindalve, Miha Chashid Hoge Govindalve. Bachya de Diradiya Turkna Kalodia, Tenu Kala Dukya Rodia. Aj Kushi Nachi, Aj Kushi Nachi. मक्की वे चाले, मीहा चशीली होगे गोविंद लागे, मीहा चशीली होगे गोविंद लागे। बगानिया ते अंधा किसे मां दे लाल सी, तैनू क्या तेरे देता दुश्मन दे पाल सी। विच आए मान तूता, फिर काला खराज वे। मीहा चशीली होगे गोविंद लागे, मीहा चशीली होगे गोविंद लागे। लोग रामी तेनू सदा लोग कहेंगे, तू ताला गया शर्म जो भी कहेंगे, जो कहेंगे। सारे दुनिया तेरा बोलना तेरे हाल वे, मीहा च शहीद हो गए गोविंद लाल वे, मीहा च शहीद हो गए गोविंद लाल वे। आनिया आवाजा साडा मीहा च जोर सचिया। लुता इतना लाला दियां छातियां कर रखियां। सोने जाए जिंदा दे तू टुकड़िया नाले, मीहा च शहीद हो गए गोविंद लाल वे। लेवे गुंगू पापड़िया लाल ते संभाल वे, लेवे गुंगू पापड़िया लाल ते संभाल वे। मीहा च शहीद हो गए गोविंद लाल वे, मीहा च शहीद हो गए गोविंद लाल वे। वाहिगुरू जी का खालसा, वाहिगुरू जी की फतेह।
Now we're going to recite a story from three children, Iqbal Singh,
We are the offspring of our king, our worldly father Guru Gobind Singh. Listen up, take note, this is our story, our ultimate sacrifice, our unique glory. We settled in the Nandpur city of bliss, learning that God it was our wit. Horse riding, archery and self-defense, being always prepared the hours we spent. We were happy and content, living life as it was meant. This was short-lived, it was not to be. What then unfolded made history. Despite taking an oath on the Holy Quran, the Mughal Emperor had utterly planned. Leave the fort, we will not attack. When it came to honor, they turned their back. This was the moment when we all separate, crossing the Sarsa before it's too late. Never again did we reunite, lost forever in the darkness night. Then came the battle of Champur. The scene was set. We could resist no more.
We sought thy blessings, we sought thy permission. Our brothers were calling, this was our mission. Setting the example for all to see, walking the talk, not wanting to flee. Outnumbered we were in the battle of Jampur, yet still no fair, no gleam or flaw. We laid down our life, but even then it was our terms, our choice and when. Risk or death we did not fear. Oh, bliss on high, bliss on cheer. Fighting the battle was not about the win, standing up for the truth for king and king. Through injustice in the forging act, this is not our way, and we did not crack. Guru, the servant, had betrayed our Guru in return of money. He sold the truth, the gold tower lane awaits. But this was a verse and Mother Guruji's fate. Whether offering treasures, money and more, give up your faith was the country's call. Despite our tender ages of 6 now, we stood up. We considered our crime. What with our strength, how did we cope? Mother Gurji, other healed, give us hope. In her Sangat, we both were told, accept thy, we'll be true and bold.
Late December, amid chilly nights, no food or shelter, this was our plight. Repeated torture to change our thoughts, but we couldn't be broken, we couldn't be bought. Moti Mehra, Guru's true Sikh, served us hot milk despite the race. He showed us the courage, compassion and care. This was true Seva, and ever so rare. Mata Gujri bid us farewell, hugged us and told us not to dwell. You are the sons of Guru Gobind Singh, a saintly soldier, a king of kings. Grip them alive, then came the call, make them stand within a wall. They showed us no mercy, and it must be said, when all else failed, they took our heads. We were only 6 and 9. Remember our names and remember this time. The history books will open declare the youngest Shaheedis who had valor and dare. As you gather with family, relatives and friends, reflect, discuss and change the trend. Tell your children and all who care a unique sacrifice, something so rare. They say that Christmas is a time of giving, meeting loved ones, eating and gifts and living. For his beloved Khalsa, he gave us all. His parents and sons answered the call. As parents we care for our offspring, cherish and nurture them. We give everything. Our concerns and worries are forever endless. and should anything happen, we become senseless. Yet there is a Father who, despite his loss, gently taps us on the shoulder in case we forgot. I gave you my parents and my dearest four, but I still have you, the Khalsa I need no more. This is my offering to all brothers and sisters, my friends, loved ones, and respected elders. Forgive my errors and any flaws. I am nothing but a servant at the Guru's door. Zorawara, Fateh, Ajit, Tegh, Juja, Shaheedi, Onna, Veer Rakhiya, Yad. My Guruji ka Khalsa.
Thank you. Now we've got Jasmine doing the farmers' protest.
Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh. I'm doing the Farmers Protest 2020 for all those farmers in India, especially the ones in Punjab, because they are learning from the Guru's teachings of righteousness. Farmers Protest 2020. I do not live in Punjab, but Punjab lives in my soul, where water is pure as nectar, flows in the wells of my farm. With calloused hands, they work under the scorching sun, pouring blood into their work. Have you forgotten this Murti, whose hard work produced the very food you eat? You call them terrorists, these Sardars of Punjab. You loot, you beat them, yet they still choose to feed the very hand that strikes them. Heartless and shameless allegations are made to defame our mothers, not realizing thousands of their children would rise to defend their honor. Where are those stars who made their names using our Punjab? Now gone are those lights as the darkest of nights descends on our Punjab. I am in England, others are scattered all around the world. But don't for a second think, my dear Punjab, golden sparrow, that I cannot hear your cries. To fight for our rights, we organised rallies with flags waving high. Your sons and your daughters drove their cars, their tractors, lorries and bikes, carrying posters. Your daughters share the pain within your heart. We woke up those governments who were in a deep slumber. But why do you suffer, dear people? Why do you burn inside? That is because your mothers used to tell you that a farmer is a form of God. Waheguru, bless all these people who are suffering due to the arrogant and ignorant of these rich elite people. Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh.
Thank you, everybody. Is there any other children who would like to perform? Prakash, can you come?
Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji was the ninth of 10 Gurus of the Sikh religion. He was born in Amritsar in 1621 and was the youngest son of Guru Har Gobind Ji. He was the Guru from 1665 to 1675. 115 of his hymns are in the Guru Granth Sahib Ji. His father was Guru Har Gobind Ji and his mother was Mata Nanaki. His grandparents were Guru Arjan Dev Ji and Mata Ganga. His great-grandparents were Guru Ramdas Ji and Mata Bahani. His wife was Mata Gujri Ji and his son was Guru Gobind Singh Ji. His grandsons were Baba Ajit Singh Ji, Baba Jujhar Singh Ji, Baba Zora Singh Ji and Baba Fateh Singh Ji. He also wants to know from Allah. Why would he? Because Allah would.
ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕਾ ਖਾਲਸਾ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕੀ ਫਤਿਹ। Go
ठाकुर तुम पहरेदार